Loving and gracious God, we seek your Spirit now in your presence. Speak to us, move among us, and all of us might hear the word you have for us this day. We pray in your Son's name. Amen. The parable this morning is often misunderstood. Despite what we might think at first, for instance, it is not actually telling us about the afterlife. Jesus is not trying to lay out the wheres and the wherefores of what it looks like after we die. It's a parable. He's using poetic language to make a point. He's not trying to tell us what happens beyond the veil of death. It's also not about whether or not it's good to be rich or poor. Now, I don't know how often our particular society would read this parable and say, we should never be rich. Not one I think comes up a lot from our society. We like our money pretty much. But either way, that's not the best reading of this parable. It just isn't. It is a parable about money, about possessions. It's a parable about truly seeing and having our eyes open to the needs around us, the needs that sometimes lie just inside our very gates. In the parable, we basically have two characters. Abraham appears right at the very end. He's the third. We have the rich man, who is never given a name, and the poor man, whose name is Lazarus. Now please note, nothing in this parable suggests that Lazarus was abused by the rich man. Some people, in the commentaries I read, suggested that the dog licked his sores might suggest that the rich man sending the dogs to Lazarus, and that's just reading way too much into it. There's no there there. There's no reason to think within the parable that the rich man intentionally mistreated Lazarus or treated him badly. Because the rich man didn't treat him at all. He simply didn't see him. He didn't see him lying at the gates. He didn't see him as he lay dying. And even at the end of the story, the rich man still doesn't see Lazarus. Not really. Not Lazarus as a person, not as a child of God, a son of Abraham, who deserves to be loved, be happy, be healthy. Instead, the rich man, when he finally saw Lazarus, saw him as an errand boy. One who could run down to give him some comfort in his agony, or who might go back to life just to give a message to those the rich man did see and did care about, so that they might hear a word of salvation. The rich man never truly sees Lazarus. And that's what this parable is all about. Well, one of them. It's about us seeing what is around us, seeing who is around us, and seeing the ways that we can do the kingdom work of helping them and caring for them after we've seen them. And there's a lot to that to unpack that all begins with the seeing, with looking, with allowing ourselves to open our eyes. And frankly, that might be the part that's the hardest for us. It's so easy to close our eyes, but to simply look away. And I suspect all of us, myself included, have been guilty at one time or another of doing just that. Of looking past a beggar in Cincinnati or Indianapolis. Of ignoring the large percentage of people in our schools here in Batesville, here in southern Indiana, that receive free and reduced lunches. Of not seeing the several hundreds of people that are served each month at the food pantry at Bama. We can be good at shutting our eyes, at seeing only what we want to see, who we want to see. But we need to do better. We need to keep striving to do better. Because as Jesus makes plain in this parable, we have people we need to see. people who need what we can give, people only we can help, only we can serve, and only we can love. We need to find ways to see those who are poor or in need in our community, to see those struggling with mental illness or anxiety or grief, to see those, truly see those whom we disagree with about politics or sports or the color of the church carpet, to see those in our society that are often labeled other, either implicitly or through systems of discrimination, immigrants, people of color, and more, those suffering from and trying to leave situations of abuse, those who struggle as parents, those who don't struggle as parents, and so on and so forth. There are lots of groups that we can see, lots of groups that we need to be open to serving, to see them, to imagine the ways we can serve them, or because we're a part of one community together, maybe the ways that we, in our time of need, can be served. We need to open our eyes and our hearts. Remember that each of them, each of us, is a child of God, a beloved creation made by our amazing Creator. We need to find ways to truly see. Open our eyes to all those around us that we can serve and who can serve us, because we're a part of the family of God together. And that's one thing this parable is about. One important thing. And after we've done that, well then, we should start talking about money. You see, there are many ways that we can serve and help others. Volunteering, giving food items, the potatoes in the back, or giving item drives, and they're important, they count, and they need to be emphasized. And so we do in this congregation. But sometimes we have to pause and talk about our money. This Sunday feels like one of those times, because as I read it, it feels like money is the other thing this parable is about. The rich man, after all, cannot see because he's been blinded by his own wealth, by his own luxury, by his own stuff. And this can be true for us too. And that's a whole other sermon that is faithful and important, and we'll get to it at some point, I'm sure. But set aside that for a little bit. Because what I want us to ponder here at the end of this sermon is, what does this parable and our scriptures in general tell us about our money? It's obvious to me that we're not supposed to be the rich man. He's not the hero of the story. But it's equally obvious, I hope, that most of us here in our lives are much closer to the rich man's social standing than poor Lazarus dying on the street of Bethsaida. And so what do we do with that? How do we grapple with what that looks like for us? How do we find this parable's word for us regarding our own resources and find hope within it? Well, for that I would say we turn to 1 Timothy, which thankfully has a word for those of us who are presently rich. And let's be clear, we live in the richest country in the world, and we all own cars, and most of us have houses, and we have lots and lots of stuff. So by any account of world relations, we are all pretty much rich. So what does Timothy say to us? Here's what it says. As for those who in this present age are rich, command them not to be haughty, or to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but rather on God, who richly provides us everything for our enjoyment. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, generous and ready to share, thus storing up for themselves a treasure of good foundation for the future, that they may take hold of the life that really is life. Those who are rich, 1 Timothy says, are to be generous, to do good works, and trust not upon their wealth, but upon God. It's simple words. It doesn't feel like it should be complicated. And of course, it is much harder than it feels. We know that. We live it, right? That's it. Be generous, do good works, trust God. Because here's the thing. Our money is not meant to be a curse. We're not doomed to a life of torture because we happen to have cars and houses. And thankfully so. Praise the Lord. But what our money is supposed to be is a tool. It's a resource that we are gifted by God and we're called to be a steward of for the sake of the kingdom, for the sake of caring for others. Make no mistake, the choices we make with our money, with our budgets, are moral choices. Our personal budgets, and even more, the budgets of our institutions like this church and our governments. They show our priorities. They show what's important to us. What gets the most money and why? What gets very little money and why? What gets no money and why? These are important questions. I would say especially on the larger scale. Because after all, I would suspect that most of our individual budgets, money goes to food, shelter, clothing, gas, just life. It's not a moral choice eating or not. And that should get us off the hook. Because all of us, or at least most of us, have at least some discretionary income. Money that we can choose to spend on this or that or the other thing. And I would say for us, it's that portion of our budget, that's the moral choices, that needs a balance. Do we only pay for dinners out to eat, or presents for others, or even for ourselves? Do we only spend our money on nice vacations or expensive cars, or an ever-increasing list of things we own in our houses? Or do we use it for the sake of the kingdom? By giving to this congregation or other charities, by being generous in how we tip at restaurants and other places, by giving to those in need, by striving to make our money and our use of money a tool for the sake of the kingdom. And it really is a balancing act, isn't it? I'm going to make up some numbers here. They're totally made up. And probably outrageous, but they'll get the idea. If you're spending several $1,000s to go on vacation, don't think of a couple hundred to charity and to the church and to God's work, because you can't afford any more than that. Your balance is off, isn't it? Now, those are made-up numbers. I suspect most of us have real numbers. I have real numbers if I sat down to figure them out. You have to find the balance. Because everything I've been listed is good. It's good to take on vacation. It's good to go places. It's good to go to dinner with your friends and your spouse and your family. It's good to buy presents for people. It's even okay to buy stuff for yourself. As long as we're in balance. As long as a significant portion of our resources that we use for discretionary income are also supporting the kingdom of God. We aren't giving God the least of our resources, the last leftover bits and pieces. We're having God as part of the full conversation. It's a balance. And balances are never easy, by the way. They're really hard, and we have to work with them almost daily to figure out how to make that balance work. I understand that. Me too. We're called to search for and find that balance. There's one example of what that balance might look like. Let's tell you a little about Bill Gates. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, is one of the richest men in the world. But he is not the richest. Why? Well, on top of market share and market fluctuations and all those business things I don't know very much about, Bill and Melinda Gates have chosen to give lavishly and large amounts of money to a wide variety of charities as they strive to fight problems around the world. A stance, by the way, that Bill credits his wife Melinda with more than him. So yay, ladies. Bill has made more money than most of us could ever even dream about. But he has striven to use that money for the good of the world. For Bill Gates, money has become a tool. Now, we're not likely to become Bill Gates, although if any of you all do, I have several student loans I would love to get paid off. You can talk to me. We can have a conversation. And I really don't want to lionize too much the giving of multi-billionaires, because those are layered conversations, and once you dig beneath the surface of who gives what and how do they get their money and how do they earn it, it's deeper than I want to cover in this sermon. Much, much deeper. If we use Bill as merely an example to look at and be reminded of our own choices, as I said, don't dig too deep beneath the surface, the point is clear. Our money is meant to be a tool for the sake of the kingdom, to help care for our families and ourselves, to help care for the world, to do the kingdom tasks that God has set before us, if only our eyes are open to see them. The rich man of the parables was never able to truly see Lazarus, even right in front of his gates. And a sense of entitlement blinded him from seeing Lazarus even in death. But we don't have to be this way. We have seen the love and grace of God in Jesus Christ. We have heard the good news that we are beloved, that we are enough. What we have is enough. And we can take that good news out to the world, using it and all of our resources, our talents, our volunteer time, our items, and even our money, to build the kingdom of God right here on earth, just as it is in heaven. Let us open our eyes to look. Let us open our eyes to see. Let us open our hands to give. Let us open our hearts to love. For there are those that are gates in our cities, in our lives, that need what we can share, if only we are willing to see them, to be with them. Thanks be to God.